All right, NFL fans, football fans in general, welcome to another episode of the Call Sheet Daily. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. It is Whiteboard Wednesday, my favorite day of the week where I talk to real football coaches about the X and O's of the great game of football. And we have one of our favorites returning here, Coach Paul Callahan, my friend and colleague. And we're going to break down one of the most popular and versatile passing concepts in all of football today, the mesh concept. So welcome back to the show, Coach Cal.
Thanks, Kev. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. You enjoying your spring break? Coach Cal's on spring break right now, as teachers in our district are.
Oh, yeah, it's great. You know, it's a late spring break, but it's been a good year, so but happy to get a break.
I'm sure you're cranking out Ramones records and Bob Dylan and all your faves.
It was a nice last weekend was record store day, so I did a lot of shopping and still haven't listened to all my records from record store today. So I'm going to be listening to some Warren Zevon today.
Oh, okay. Warren Zevon. There we go. Little Werewolves of London, eh? All right. So, Cal, the mesh concept, one of the most versatile, popular passing concepts. It's in playbooks from the high school level to the NFL. Let's start just by talking through the concept in general, and then we'll kind of dive into some of the particulars, right? So explain to me, we're talking mesh. What are we talking about here?
Well, mesh is sort of a universal term. Anytime that you have two crossing routes that are over the football where they go side by side and they're so close to each other that if it's man-to-man, the defenders have to avoid each other. That generally is like a mesh concept. There's a lot of other things that you can do on the outside, but the general rule for the mesh concept are those two crossing routes that end up over the ball at about 4 or 5 yards. And the running back will run what they call a rail route up the bottom of the numbers. Then you have the mesh, and then you'll have some kind of OTB, or we call it a whole route that's about 10 yards over the ball. That's very good versus zone. And then on the outside, you usually have some kind of deep outside, a deep route like a post. So quarterback-wise, the progression, no matter what you run with mesh, your quarterback progression is pretty much the same. 1, you're looking for the running back on the rail route. 2, you're looking for the low cross. And then 3, you're looking for the whole route. And that generally holds true for every zone defense. And if it's man-to-man, you're looking, number 1, again, to the rail route, the running back, or number 2, whoever comes off the mesh cleaner versus man-to-man.
So, Cal, is the progression the fact that you're essentially making a same side progression? You're looking rail, low cross, high hole. And all of that is really happening from the center to one side of the field. Is the fact that you don't have to make a full field progression one of the reasons that this is such a popular concept, just because it's user friendly for the quarterback?
Yeah, and I think it allows the quarterback to look at receivers rather than defenders. Like, you know, there's some intricacies where you look at the corners drop, but generally the quarterback's just looking, hey, like you're playing in the backyard. Is my running back open? No. Can I go to the low cross? No. Yes, the hole. Scramble. And so it's easy. You're not reading defenders. You're looking for the receivers like you've been playing football since you were a little kid. So I think that progression is one of the reasons why it's become so popular. And you can do all the varieties with it. And the quarterback progression's generally the same, outside to inside.
You know, when Phil Longo was on the show a couple of weeks ago, for those who don't remember, Phil, he's head football coach at Sam Houston State, but he's been a long-time air raid guru. Mesh is one of the staples of the air raid passing game. But he talked about that at length, the progression reads as opposed to the reading of defenders. He just felt it was easier on quarterbacks. It got the ball out of their hands quicker. They didn't have to worry about trying to diagnose pre or post snap coverages from the defense. And it feels as though that mesh, the combination of the progression read and then the throws themselves, are ones that high school kids can make. Right? You're not asking a 16-year-old kid to throw a dropout route from the far hash, like, you know, the NFL throw. Is that a part of its effectiveness as well? Is that just like young kids can make these throws?
I think that's a really good point, Kev. I think that, you know, you come back there and that rail route to the running back, you know, that's an 8-yard throw. I could make it. And the low cross, in fact, one thing, and you know this, is to get the quarterbacks to throw it easier. It's to take some air out of it. Don't throw it so hard. And that whole route is 10 yards over the football, right in the quarterback's vision. So they're all throws. You're not asking them, like you said, throw a drop out to the field or throw a curl, to the top of the numbers. These are all very easy throws. So I think that's a really good point. The combination of the progression is quarterback friendly and defense independent, as well as the throws are all very easy throws.
Why do you think this is such a tricky route for defenses? Obviously, its popularity is a product of the reasons we just talked about, but it's also popular because it's hard to defend. I mean, it wouldn't be in every playbook if it was a piece of cake. So why do you think it's been so difficult for defenses?
Well, you just think about it. It's a flood concept at its very basis. You got the running back who's running to the weak side flat and carrying the flat defender out of there. And then you have a good wide receiver running to the same area. So at its very core, it's a flood concept, which is the easiest one for offenses to complete and one of the toughest for a zone defense to complete. And the second part of it that is tough, it's great versus man-to-man. It's outstanding. You're going to blitz people. All right, we're going to send a running back out of the backfield, which means that you have to probably cover him with one of your inside linebackers. So you have a matchup problem right there. And you have two guys who are running man-to-man right at each other with defenders chasing them, and they got to avoid people. And again, and you know how we run it, it's usually our best guy who's running that low cross. So it's a slot defender running man-to-man against a good defender and having to run around a receiver. So it's a flood versus zone and versus man-to-man. It's a rub route.
Yeah. Now talk about those crossers. They've got some adjustments that potentially they have to make in the midst of the route. What people call sight adjustments, where as they're progressing across the field towards one another, there's some thinking that has to go on, and that thinking has got to be in coordination with what the quarterback sees as well. So how are those crossing routes adjusting as they progress?
First thing they got to do is everybody knows who's going to defend crossing routes. They're first going to try to attack them with the linebackers. They're going to be linebackers that are headhunting those guys. So they got to avoid the linebacker that's closest to them who's headhunting them. And then they've got to read, hey, do I have man-to-man defense? How can I read it? I look at the other crosser. Is somebody chasing them? It's man-to-man, right? If it's man-to-man, now I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to keep that thing on a run while at the same time avoiding the linebackers who are trying to headhunt me, avoiding the defensive line, whatever they got to do, find the mesh. And so all that thing's happening at real speed and happening in under 2 seconds. The second thing they have to read is, hey, is it zone? If it's zone, where are the linebackers dropping and what's the good grass? Is the good grass in the flat? All right, well, I got to keep going there. Is the good grass past the mesh, but before you get to the flat area, in the curl area? So there I've got to decide in real time, in less than 2 seconds, is this zone? What's the best grass to sit down on? And how do I alert the quarterback that I'm sitting down? Because like Phil talked about, we want the receivers reading defenses, not the quarterback. We want to make things easy on the quarterback, and they throw to the open guy because why? He's open. So, one of the things that Phil does with it, and we started doing it too, is when the receivers sit down in that zone area to call for the ball, like they're opening the basketball, ball. So the quarterback's eyes now will direct to the sound where he hears the ball call. And that's it might be a 1/10 of a second or 2/10 of a second faster, but that can make a big deal versus pressure.
Right. And we've had the running back call for the ball too. Like if he's open right away,
Sure.
let's say it's man and there's a backer that's got to chase him out of the box. And then he has to navigate that first crosser and go over the top. And the running back sees, hey, I got open grass, and scream for the ball. QB will get it out. So for the quarterback, then if he's working off the running back to the low cross, it's really just his job. Once he reorients, he changes his hips and he comes to that low crosser. It's really just his job to locate him, right? Because the receiver's doing all the work.
Yeah, and that's what you want it to be because, like we say to the quarterbacks all the time, it's hard to play quarterback. So you want to make it as easy as possible when they're playing it. So when he has to change his hips and throw, now we always say where your eyes go, your body will go, the ball will go, right? So you got to get your eyes to that receiver. That's why, like a little verbal cue, like him calling ball, enables him to get his eyes to that receiver that much quicker. And now you're playing backyard football. That's what I like about mesh. It's I'm reading Tiger Ellison's book or rereading that book from years ago about run and shoot, and it's backyard football. Hey, someone's chasing me. It's man to man. I'm going to keep running. Oh, wait, there's grass over here. They're setting in an area. I'm going to sit down. Quarterback, you look at the receiver and throw me the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great underneath concept. And there's lots of ways that you can work those progressions to find an open receiver. But if you want to tag it and take a shot, or if you want to tag it so that the running back's rail route becomes a wheel and now is a potential him running one-on-one against a defender whose back is turned to the quarterback, et cetera. Like, you can find ways to turn this into an explosive play as well. Talk about that for a minute. How does that work?
Well, just if you look at just the base um, mesh concept, right? The running back on the rail, right? One of the first things we do with the quarterbacks, we say, all right, is the running back open? If he's covered, who's covering him? If the linebacker's coming out of the box to cover him and you've checked that deep third to make sure it's uncapped on your drop, you know you've got the linebacker deep as part of your natural progression. So you can have a deep shot to the running back as your first shot, depending upon who's covering the running back and whether that area is capped. The other thing built right into the concept is you have a post on the outside. If you've got cover 0, you can read the post as number 1. Or if you're not sure it's cover 0, you can read the post as 1 and read it high-low. So now you're going post, hole to low cross. It's a same read that you'd have on a post dig progression. And for quarterbacks, again, it's easy. You're looking at the post. Is it open? Am I looking at the hole route? Is it open? Am I looking at the low cross? Is it open? The next thing that can create an explosive, and this is just in the base concept without even tagging it, it's a natural scramble play. It's probably the best scramble play in football. If you scramble to your right, you have a crosser coming with you. If you scramble to your left, you have a crosser coming with you. If you step up in the middle, you have a hole route whose sole job is to sit at 10 yards and get himself open if he's matched. So those things happen right away. And like we tell the quarterbacks all the time, if they're all covered, you're not. You get the run. So just in its base concept, without any tags, you have a chance to create explosives by just reading it differently, noticing who's covering the running back, those things. And then you can always tag it. The original mesh, like Mummy and Leach ran it all the way back at Kentucky and before, was the number 1 route was an outside receiver. So if you have a dude as your number 1 guy, you can make him your number 1 choice. You can block it in 6-man protection if you're worried about the protection, or check release the back. But you can have your guy as your number 1, run him on a corner route or read post route, read out route, or just run him on a straight 9 route. And you say, all right, I got a mismatch. He's my guy. I'm either going to throw deep to him or back shoulder him. Hey, it's not good. I don't like it on my third step. Come down to the low cross, work back to the hole, right? So all those things are going to be built into the route with 1 tag or no tags.
Right. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is you're not creating new concepts. You're simply adjusting the way that you read or execute a concept that you work every single day. And when you look at it, we said early in the show, hey, it's easy on the quarterback because it's not a full field progression, but it does attack the full field. So you're not asking your quarterback to read all of that at once, but he does have built-in options where if the vertical stretch is the better option as opposed to the horizontal stretch, you've got that as well. So I think versatility really is the word when you talk about this play.
Yeah, it's versatile, and it's at the same time being quarterback friendly. We've had times where we've had to hit the high cross that was going to the field that wasn't in the quarterback's progression, just because the quarterback was reading it and said, "Oh my God, he's wide open." He just saw him come open and he threw the ball to him. I remember a big game versus in a big game one time, getting 27 yards on something that wasn't on his progression. Or other times the guy will come to the sideline and say, listen, I'm wide open on that high cross. That's not in that field of progression. And we've told the quarterback to look to it. And at the same token, you can do that and come back to the whole route. So it's very versatile. And like I said, I'll say over and over again, it's quarterback friendly.
It's funny. We were in our playoff game this past year against Allentown, and our starting tight end was hurt, and we really wanted to run the ball against that team. And we thought to ourselves, hey man, we don't need the tight end in the passing game, right? So we took an offensive tackle, big Aaron Desch, and we changed his number. We gave him a 49 and he squeezed into that big 49. And we ran mesh early in the game, and he's the high cross. So he's not even in the progression. So we're like, I don't have any problem running mesh here. We're not throwing the ball to Desch. And then our quarterback throws the ball to Desch, and he catches it for a first down. And afterwards, when he came off the sideline, I asked him, I said, Jackson, why'd you throw the ball? Why'd you throw the high cross there to the tight end? And he said, oh, he was open. I said, oh, okay. Throw it to the kid who's open. That's great. So like you're saying, it doesn't necessarily, he's not necessarily in the progression, but he's available. And if you're taking away all that front side stuff, with us stretching the field 53 yards, then it's going to be hard to take away something else on the backside.
There's a great article years ago that was in The Athletic about Mike Leach and his quarterback meetings when he was at Washington State. They were legendary, and they interviewed all those quarterbacks. And one of the things Leach used to say to him is say, why didn't you throw to him? He was open. And the quarterback would say, Coach, he's not in my progression. And he goes, yeah, but he's open. Yeah. He's open. And that's just the thing, let's not make the game too hard. Jackson sees the big tight end. He's open, throwing the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. For all the intricacies, sometimes it's as simple as that. Now, look, there's a lot of variations of mesh. And one of the more popular ones is to use it in the red zone, or when you're getting man coverage, mesh traffic, which is really more than anything else, it's a pick play. But this is one of the hot concepts. I mean, if you're surfing around the Instagram or some social media platform, a bunch of coaches will put variations of mesh traffic up there. If you get into any playbook now, it's in everybody's red zone package. Talk us through that real quick, Cal. What's mesh? What is mesh traffic, and why has that become such a popular concept?
Well, it's funny. I was saying earlier that, every year I take notes when I see something in the game, and I said, this play looks nice. This is a good red zone play. It's a variation of mesh. And it turns out it's mesh traffic. You Google it, you look it up on YouTube, you can see it. What I've seen is basically from the Rams, the 49ers, other NFL teams, they run it out of 3-by-1. And they'll either start an empty and motion the running back into the backfield, or do that little wide motion and bring them back just to unmask if it's man or zone. And most teams play some form of man down in the red zone. So it's great versus man. The running back will cross. It'll be in 3-by-1, and he'll be on the opposite side of where he's going to run the low cross. He'll cross the quarterback's face behind the line of scrimmage to where he would normally go in pass protection to block the linebacker. Because that's the side of the pass protection set, there's a natural gap there for the running back to get through. He'll go through that gap, and in the meantime, there are two receivers coming from the wide side of the field or the trip side that are both running at the defender, the linebacker who's covering the running back. So that linebacker is not only probably not as fast as the running back, or if he's as fast, he's got to run an obstacle course for these two crossing routes that are running directly at him, avoid him at the last second, and then he runs to the flat opposite side of the field. And you see, when you're watching on YouTube, the running back's always wide open. The trick is, hey, if they're in zone, what do? I've seen teams run like a corner route on the same side, so you end up getting a smash concept. But I think it's primarily run versus man.
Yeah, and it's really a problem in the red zone because, again, you get so much man coverage down there. The clutter you have to navigate. It's like a moving pick in basketball, but now you got two guys setting picks for you, and you have to work through all that. It is really become a popular play for obvious reasons. All right, I'll get you out of here on this one, Coach Cal. Are there any situations you don't like running mesh? Are there any scenarios where you're like, hey, I don't think it's great versus blank?
We've run it for years, right? We started running it Rowan years ago, and we've run it for years. And over the years, when you see a way a team defends that gives you a problem, you end up having a solution for them. All right, it's 3-3 stacked or cover zero. We'll do it out 6-man protection, keep the back in, do it off that, right? Or we'll have some kind of all right, there's a zone dropping them one linebacker to the whole route. What is our answer to that? So over the years, whenever we've had a problem, one of the new things to defend it is have that defender who's covering the running back peek back inside after the quarterback stops looking at him and looks back to the low cross. So, there's ways we've messed with this in the past in Skelly when we see it and say, all right, we're playing against a peaker. Let's look at the low cross first, get him to defend it, and then throw to the running back second. So I think to answer your question, I don't think there's any real defense or situation where I don't like it. You know what I mean? Just because over the time you end up developing answers or some kind of way to read it versus whatever the defense progresses. In fact, one of the things that I used to tell our quarterbacks is our defense would see so much mesh, and they did a great job defending in Skelly. I would say it's going to be easier in the game than it is in Skelly. They have 2 days to prepare for it, 3 days. Our guys are playing against it every single day. So, again, there's an answer. I think there's an answer. There should always be somebody open, and if someone's not open, then the quarterback's open.
That's a great point. Cal, enjoyed the conversation as always, and looking forward to it. We won't be that far away, Coach, before we start doing this for real again.
Yeah, minicamp's coming up real soon, and it'll be exciting to get back out there and work with the guys.
Yes, it will. Before that, though, the NFL draft, that is tomorrow. Kicks off tomorrow, round 1. So I'll have a show out tomorrow morning where we kind of revisit some of the drama of the NFL draft. What are some of the best draft day stories over the past 25 years or so? The most memorable draft day stories. It really is a tremendous American soap opera, the NFL draft. So tune in tomorrow for that. Cal, appreciate you coming on again.
Thanks, Kev. It was great being here.
Absolutely. So for Coach Callahan, this is Kevin Smith. Have a great day, and we'll check everybody tomorrow.